The enormous doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a sound like thunder rolling across space. Ambassador Kate Mitchell stepped through, her black diplomatic uniform sharp against the massive crystal walls that reached toward a ceiling lost in shadows. Behind her walked General David Torres, his military bearing clear despite wearing civilian clothes, and Dr. Lisa Park, whose calm face hid the weight of humanity's survival resting on her shoulders. The chamber stretched impossibly wide, its curved walls displaying real-time images of the galaxy. Red dots marked the positions of the invasion fleet, 12,000 warships from 20 different alien species, all positioned around Earth like predators circling wounded prey. The blockade had lasted 4 months, cutting off all contact while the Council decided humanity's fate. Before them sat the most powerful beings in known space. The Void Lords towered like living shadows, their dark forms rippling with energy that made the air itself feel heavy. Next to them, the Crystal Collective sparkled with inner light, their crystalline bodies reflecting the chamber's glow like living diamonds. 20 other species filled the remaining seats, each representing civilizations that had conquered star systems when humans were still learning to make fire. The accused stand before judgment, announced the Council's ancient computer, its voice coming from everywhere at once. The species called human, from the third world of Sol system, charged with destroying the research fleet of the Mothkar Empire and violating the Galactic Peace Treaty. Kate felt David tense beside her. The Mothkar incident, 23 alien ships destroyed in 8 minutes when they tried to set up a science station in Earth's asteroid belt without permission. What the Council called murder, humanity called self-defense. What they didn't know was that those 23 ships were just the beginning. The largest Void Lord leaned forward, its form creating ripples in space around it. This primitive species destroyed our research vessels with weapons that should not exist. Their technology is too basic to detect our stealth ships, yet somehow they not only found them but destroyed them completely. Dr. Park stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the weight of history pressing down on them. Honored Council members, humanity requests permission to present evidence before any judgment is made. A sound like singing crystals filled the chamber as the Crystal Collective spoke. Evidence? Your ships were found at the destruction sites. Your weapon signatures were confirmed. 23 vessels, each carrying 200 researchers, turned to space dust. What evidence could justify such violence? Kate looked at David, who nodded slightly. They had prepared for this moment. But planning and facing beings who could destroy planets were very different things. The invasion fleet outside wasn't just a blockade. It was an execution squad waiting for orders to turn Earth into a memory. The evidence relates to something your investigation teams missed, Kate said, her diplomat training keeping her voice level despite her racing heart. The Mothkar ships weren't destroyed by human weapons. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of life support systems. The galaxy display above flickered as if responding to the tension below. Several council members shifted in their massive seats. Ancient beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall now focused entirely on the 3 humans before them. The largest Void Lord's form darkened with confusion. Impossible. Our sensors clearly detected human energy signatures at the destruction sites. Your basic kinetic weapons were never fired, Dr. Park interrupted, breaking protocol in a way that sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. What your sensors detected was the result of the first rule. The Crystal Collective's bodies brightened, energy crackling between their faceted surfaces. What rule? What are you speaking of, human? David stepped forward, his military posture now unmistakable as he stood at attention. The simple gesture seemed primitive compared to the advanced beings around them. But something in his stance made several council members lean back slightly. The first rule of human war, David said, his voice carrying the weight of military tradition across the vast chamber. Never let the enemy see you coming. As if his words were a signal, the galaxy display above them flickered and changed. The red markers showing the invasion fleet began to pulse, but now they were joined by new signatures. Thousands of them, appearing throughout the solar system as if materializing from nothing. Ships that had been hidden not by advanced technology, but by something far more dangerous. Human cleverness and the patience to let enemies make the first move. The chamber erupted in alarms as council members realized that the blockade they thought was trapping humanity had been, for 4 months, sitting in the middle of the largest defensive network ever built. and every single weapon was now pointed outward at the invasion fleet. Kate smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Perhaps we should discuss exactly what happened to the Mothcar research fleet, and why you might want to reconsider the terms of this judgment. The Void Lord's forms rippled with what might have been surprise or rage. This is trickery. Our sensors would have detected any fleet of this size. You're absolutely right, Dr. Park said, moving to the center of the chamber and producing a small device that projected a three-dimensional image. You cannot hide 60,000 ships, if they're ships as you understand them. The image showed what appeared to be a normal asteroid, its surface covered with ice and cosmic dust. But you can hide 60,000 weapon platforms that look exactly like space rocks. The revelation sent shockwaves through the council. The Crystal Collective's bodies pulsed with rapid light patterns that Kate's briefings had taught her meant extreme agitation. You disguised warships as asteroids? How crude. How effective. Not disguised, Kate corrected, feeling the crucial moment where humanity's survival hung in balance. We built them inside real asteroids. For 60 years, every mining operation, every space construction project, every piece of orbital equipment humanity created served two purposes. We learned early that the galaxy was full of civilizations far more advanced than ourselves. She gestured to the display, which now showed a cutaway view of what looked like a simple asteroid. Inside, hidden beneath layers of rock and ice, lay a weapon platform capable of projecting destructive force equal to a battleship's main guns. When the Mothcar fleet arrived to establish their research station, they triggered our border defenses. 23 ships were destroyed not by our fleet, but by 23 asteroids they passed on their way into our system. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just hidden weapons. They had turned their entire solar system into a fortress, using the very rocks of space as camouflage for instruments of war. And if they could hide weapons this well, what else had they been hiding? The council chamber's mood had shifted from formal judgment to barely controlled panic. Emergency lights bathed the crystal walls in warning colors of red and orange, as the holographic display above continued to reveal the true scope of humanity's preparation. Where moments before the invasion fleet had appeared to hold Earth in a death grip, now it was clear that 12,000 alien warships were surrounded by nearly 60,000 human weapons that had somehow remained completely invisible. High Commander Vex of the Iron Claw Empire, his metallic scales flashing with rage, slammed a robotic fist against his seat. This is impossible. Our sensors would have detected any fleet of this size. You cannot hide 60,000 ships. Dr. Park moved to the center of the chamber, activating a device that projected a detailed tactical display. You're correct, Commander. You cannot hide 60,000 ships, if they're ships as you understand them. The display zoomed in on one of the mysterious signatures. Instead of a traditional vessel, it showed what appeared to be an asteroid, its surface marked with craters and covered in space ice. But you can hide 60,000 weapon platforms that look exactly like cosmic debris. The revelation sent tremors through the assembled council. The largest Void Lord's form seemed to absorb light as it focused on the display with predatory intensity. You disguised warships as asteroids? How primitive. How brilliant. Kate stepped forward, knowing this was the moment where humanity's survival balanced on a knife's edge, not disguised honored ones. We built them inside actual asteroids. For 60 years, every mining operation, every space habitat construction, every piece of orbital infrastructure humanity created served a dual purpose. We learned early that the galaxy was full of civilizations far more advanced than ourselves. She gestured to the display, which now showed a cross-section of what appeared to be a simple asteroid. Inside, concealed beneath layers of rock and ice, lay a weapon platform capable of projecting destructive force equal to a battleship's main cannon. When the Mothcar research fleet arrived to establish their monitoring station, they triggered our perimeter defenses. 23 ships were destroyed not by our fleet, but by 23 asteroids they passed on their way into our system. General David Torres moved to stand beside Kate, his posture radiating the quiet confidence of a soldier who had prepared for this moment his entire life. The first rule of human war isn't just about hiding our forces. It's about making sure that when conflict comes to us, the battlefield itself fights on our side. The Crystal Collective's bodies flickered with what might have been admiration or terror. You turned your entire solar system into a fortress. How long have you been preparing for war?
Since the moment we realized we weren't alone, Kate replied simply.
Every human child learns the story of the first radio signals we detected from other worlds. They weren't messages of peace or scientific cooperation. They were military communications between species arguing over who had the right to claim our solar system for resources. The chamber fell silent as the implications hit home. The council members had spent decades watching humanity's rapid technological development, interpreting it as the natural growth of a young species. They had never considered that every advancement, every breakthrough, every seemingly innocent scientific achievement had been guided by the knowledge that more powerful civilizations were watching and waiting. High Commander. Fex's metallic voice carried a note of grudging respect. You have been preparing for invasion for generations, but surely you realize that your asteroid field, impressive though it may be, cannot stand against the combined might of 20 species. Our fleet carries world-destroying weapons. Dr. Park's calm expression never changed. And yet, Commander, your fleet hasn't fired a single shot in 4 months of blockade. Would you like to know why? Before anyone could respond, the holographic display shifted again. Now it showed the invasion fleet from a new perspective, revealing that the alien ships weren't just surrounded by hidden weapon platforms. Thin, nearly invisible energy threads connected each human installation to the next, creating a web of force fields and power conduits that encompassed the entire solar system. Because the moment you arrived, your ships became part of our defense network, Dr. Park continued. Every weapon you fire at us gets absorbed by our grid and redirected. The more firepower you bring against us, the stronger our defenses become. It's a principle we borrowed from your own Crystal Collective, actually, using an enemy's strength against them. The Crystal Collective's bodies pulsed with rapid light patterns indicating extreme shock. That technology is classified at the highest levels. How could you possibly— The first rule, David interrupted, his voice cutting through the aliens' protest. Never let the enemy see you coming. For 60 years, you've all been watching humanity's development through your spy networks, your trade missions, your cultural exchanges. Every alien diplomat who visited Earth, every scientist who shared knowledge, every trader who sold us technology, they all went home with detailed reports about human capabilities. Kate smiled as understanding dawned on several council faces. What they didn't realize was that while they were gathering intelligence on us, we were gathering intelligence on them. Every alien visitor to Earth was also an opportunity for us to learn about their technology, their military capabilities, their weaknesses. The chamber's emergency lighting suddenly shifted to deep blue, indicating that the council's computer was analyzing new data. When it spoke again, its harmonic voice carried a note of what might have been surprise. Analysis confirms human claims. Deep scans of the asteroid field reveal technology signatures from all 20 member species. Humans have reverse-engineered and combined council technologies into their defensive systems. The revelation hit the assembled representatives like a physical blow. Not only had humanity been preparing for war for decades, they had been using the council's own technological superiority against them. Every peaceful contact, every attempt at establishing diplomatic relations, every gesture of goodwill had been systematically exploited to level the playing field. The Crystal Collective's forms pulsed with rapidly changing colors. This is unprecedented. No species has ever achieved technological equality with the Council through such methods. You have been learning from us while we believed we were studying you. Kate could see the shift happening in real time. What had begun as a trial for humanity's supposed war crimes was transforming into something else entirely. A recognition that the balance of power in the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The Council had come to judge a primitive species for destroying their scouts. Instead, they were facing the realization that those scouts had been defeated by a civilization that had spent generations preparing for exactly this moment. The question now, Kate said, her diplomat's instincts guiding her toward the opening she had been waiting for, is whether the Council wishes to continue viewing humanity as a threat to be eliminated, or as a potential equal to be respected. Above them, the galaxy map pulsed with the signatures of weapons that could destroy worlds, held in check only by the promise of mutual destruction. The next few minutes would determine whether the galaxy's future would be written in war or in the kind of uneasy peace that could only exist between equals who truly understood each other's capabilities. The tension in the council chamber had evolved from hostility to something far more complex. A mixture of respect, wariness, and the dawning realization that the galaxy's power structure had changed forever. Kate Mitchell felt the weight of that transformation as she prepared to present humanity's position to beings who had ruled the stars since before her species discovered agriculture. The crystal collective's lead representative had dimmed to a soft blue glow, its crystalline form stable for the first time since the session began. Speak your proposal, humans, but understand that the invasion fleet remains in position. Your defensive grid may be impressive, but if negotiations fail, the cost in lives on both sides will be beyond calculation. Dr. Park stepped forward, her scientific background evident in the methodical way she approached the holographic display. With a gesture, she brought up a new image, not of weapons or defensive positions, but of star charts showing trade routes, resource flows, and territorial boundaries throughout the galaxy. Honored council members, humanity's proposal is simple. We don't want your territory, your resources, or your submission. We want something far more valuable. High Commander Vex's scales shifted to a cautious green. What could be more valuable than territorial expansion and resource control? Knowledge, Kate replied, moving to stand beside Dr. Park. For 60 years, we've been reverse engineering your technologies piece by piece, learning about your cultures through observation and espionage. It's been effective, but it's also been incredibly wasteful. We propose a formal exchange, humanity's unique perspectives and innovations in return for direct access to council, scientific and cultural databases. The largest Void Lord's form rippled with what Kate hoped was curiosity rather than threat assessment. Unique perspectives? You are a single-world species that has existed in space for less than a century. What could you possibly offer civilizations that have been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years? General David Torres stepped forward, his military bearing unchanged despite the diplomatic nature of the discussion. Permission to demonstrate, Ambassador? Kate nodded, and David activated a personal communicator. Within moments, the chamber's displays began showing real-time tactical data from the space around them. But this wasn't the static positioning they had seen before. This was a constantly evolving, three-dimensional chess game played with ships and weapon platforms across the entire solar system. While we've been talking, David explained, the invasion fleet has been running continuous tactical assessments, trying to find weaknesses in our defensive grid. Standard military doctrine suggests that any defensive position, no matter how well prepared, will eventually show exploitable patterns. He gestured to the display, where alien ship movements were highlighted in red. Your fleet has identified 19 potential breach points and has begun moving to exploit them. Several council members shifted, uncomfortably as they realized their military commanders had been caught preparing for battle even during negotiations. High Commander Vex's scales flushed purple again. Tactical assessment is standard procedure during any standoff. Surely you don't consider this? We consider it an opportunity, Dr. Park interrupted, her calm tone cutting through the commander's bluster. The display shifted to show the same tactical information, but now from a different perspective. Because while your fleet was identifying 19 potential breach points, our grid automatically adapted to close them. Watch. The holographic display now showed the human defensive network in real time. As alien ships moved to exploit weaknesses, the asteroid-based weapon platforms shifted their positions and field generators adjusted their output. It was like watching a living organism respond to external pressure, constantly evolving to counter new threats. Impossible, breathed the Crystal Collective's representative. No artificial intelligence can process tactical data that quickly across such a vast area. Kate smiled, recognizing the opening she had been waiting for. You're correct. No artificial intelligence could manage it. But humanity doesn't rely solely on AI for tactical coordination. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her statement began to sink in. Dr. Park manipulated the display to zoom in on individual components of the defensive grid. Instead of showing automated systems, the screens revealed something unprecedented. Human operators at every major weapon platform, their minds linked through quantum communication networks that allowed for instant coordination across the entire solar system. Networked human consciousness, Dr. Park explained. We call it the Collective Mind Protocol. While your species have focused on developing artificial minds to handle complex calculations, humanity has been exploring ways to link organic minds together. The result is a hybrid system that combines the processing power of advanced computers with the creative decision-making capabilities of human consciousness. The largest Void Lord's form seemed to absorb more light as it focused intently on the display. You have created a hive mind? Not exactly, Kate corrected. Each individual maintains their independence and personality. But when linked through the protocol, human commanders can share tactical awareness, coordinate complex maneuvers, and adapt to changing conditions faster than any purely artificial system. It's not something we could have achieved without studying your technologies, but it's also not something your technologies could have achieved without human innovation. High Commander Vex leaned forward, his military mind clearly racing through the implications. The tactical advantages would be enormous, but surely the energy requirements for such a network are substantial, Dr. Park agreed. Which brings us to the second part of our proposal. Humanity has developed several breakthrough technologies that could benefit all Council species, but we lack the infrastructure to implement them on a galactic scale. The holographic display shifted again, now showing detailed blueprints for power generation systems, faster-than-light communication networks, and what appeared to be some form of matter manipulation technology. Kate watched as the Council members studied the displays, their expressions ranging from skepticism to barely concealed hunger for new knowledge. These are theoretical designs, the Crystal Collective observed, its form brightening with interest. Some of these concepts challenge fundamental principles of physics as we understand them, which is why we need access to your research facilities and experimental stations, Kate replied. Humanity has developed the theoretical framework, but we need the advanced materials and testing environments that only Council member species possess. In exchange, we're prepared to share all of our innovations and contribute to joint research projects. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices as Council members began discussing the proposal among themselves. Kate caught fragments of conversation in a dozen different languages, some expressing excitement about the potential scientific breakthroughs, others warning about the dangers of sharing advanced technology with a species that had demonstrated such military capability. Through it all, the galaxy map above continued to pulse with the positions of weapons that could destroy worlds, a constant reminder that this negotiation was taking place balanced on the edge of interstellar war. The largest Void Lord called for order, its form rippling with authority. This proposal has merit, but it also presents significant risks. How can the Council be certain that humanity will honor such agreements? Your species has already demonstrated a capacity for deception and strategic planning that spans generations. David's response was immediate and unflinching, because the alternative is a war that nobody wins. Your invasion fleet is powerful enough to break through our defenses eventually, but the cost would be the destruction of both our civilizations and potentially several others caught in the crossfire. Our way offers advancement for everyone. And if the Council rejects this proposal? High Commander Vex asked. Kate's diplomatic training had prepared her for this moment, but the weight of speaking for her entire species still took her breath away. Then we return to our solar system, continue developing our technologies in isolation, and hope that the next time we meet, both sides will be more interested in cooperation than conflict. What she didn't say, but what every being in the chamber understood, was that humanity's next meeting with the galaxy would come from a position of even greater strength. The Council chamber had fallen into an eerie quiet that seemed to stretch across light years. Kate Mitchell could feel the weight of history pressing down on the crystalline walls as 20 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations contemplated a decision that would reshape interstellar relations forever. Above them, the holographic display continued its silent countdown, showing real-time positions of fleets that could turn the next few minutes into the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had ever witnessed. The largest Void Lord's form had been perfectly still for several minutes, its dark shape seeming to bend light around it as it processed calculations that would affect billions of lives. When it finally spoke, its voice carried the weight of authority that came from ruling star systems for over 3,000 years. The Void Council has reached a preliminary decision, it announced. causing every being in the chamber to focus their attention entirely on the towering shadow form. However, before we proceed, we require clarification on one critical point. Its attention fixed on Kate with the intensity of a black hole. This collective mind protocol your species has developed. How many humans are currently linked through this network? Dr. Park stepped forward, her scientific precision evident in her response. Currently, approximately 3 million individuals are active participants in the protocol. However, the network is designed to be scalable. Under emergency conditions, we estimate that up to 70 million humans could be integrated into the system. The number hit the chamber like a physical shock wave. High Commander Vex's scales shifted through several color patterns Kate had never seen before. 70 million minds operating in perfect coordination? The tactical implications alone go far beyond military applications, the Crystal Collective interrupted, its form flickering with what could only be described as excitement. Such a network could revolutionize scientific research, exploration, even artistic expression. Imagine the potential for collective creativity, shared problem-solving capabilities. Kate could see the shift happening in real time. What had begun as fear of humanity's military capabilities was transforming into recognition of the broader implications of their innovations. She exchanged a glance with David, who gave a barely visible nod. They had anticipated this moment, but experiencing it was something else entirely. "There's something else you should know," Kate said, her diplomat's instincts guiding her toward complete transparency. "The protocol isn't limited to humans." The statement sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Several council members leaned forward simultaneously, their alien features unable to hide their intense interest. The largest Void Lord's form seemed to draw in more light as it focused. "Entirely on her words, explain," it demanded. Dr. Park manipulated the holographic display to show detailed brain scans and quantum field measurements. "The protocol works by creating quantum entanglement between compatible neural structures. While human brains are the foundation of the network, we've discovered that several other species possess neural architectures that could, with proper technological interface, be integrated into the system." "Which species?" High Commander Vex asked, though his color pattern suggested he was already beginning to suspect the answer. "All of them," David replied simply. "Every species represented in this chamber has neural structures that could potentially interface with the protocol. The technological challenges are significant, but they're not impossible to overcome." The chamber erupted in a cascade of alien voices as the full implications of humanity's proposal became clear. This wasn't just about sharing technology or establishing trade relationships. Humanity was offering something unprecedented in galactic history, the possibility of true collective consciousness spanning multiple species across the galaxy. The Crystal Collective's form brightened to an almost blinding intensity. "You're proposing to create a galactic mind, a network that could link every intelligent species in known space." "We're proposing to make it possible," Kate corrected. "Participation would be entirely voluntary, and the network architecture includes safeguards to prevent any single species or individual from dominating the collective. Think of it as the ultimate diplomatic tool, a way for different civilizations to truly understand each other's perspectives." The implications were staggering. Wars fought over misunderstandings could become impossible when species could literally share their thoughts and motivations. Scientific breakthroughs achieved by one civilization could be instantly available to all others. The collective intelligence of the galaxy's greatest minds could be brought to bear on any challenge, but the risks were equally enormous. "High Commander," Vex voiced what several council members were clearly thinking. "Such a network could also be used as the ultimate weapon. A species that gained control of the system could potentially dominate the minds of every other intelligent being in the galaxy. Which is why the control protocols are distributed," Dr. Park explained, bringing up technical specifications that showed the network's architecture. "No single species, no single world, no single individual can control the system. It requires consensus among participants to function, and any attempt to use it for domination would be immediately detected and countered by the network itself." Kate could see several council members consulting with advisors, their conversations a mixture of excitement and deep concern. The largest Void Lord had gone completely still again, its form seeming to absorb all light as it processed the magnitude of what humanity was offering. "This decision cannot be made lightly," it finally announced. "What you propose would fundamentally alter the nature of galactic civilization. We require time to consult with our respective governments and scientific advisors." "Time we don't have," David interjected, his military experience evident in his assessment of the tactical situation. "Every minute we spend in negotiation increases the risk of an incident that could trigger the very conflict we're trying to avoid. The invasion fleet's commanders are growing restless, and our defensive grid operators are showing signs of stress from maintaining combat readiness for extended periods." As if summoned by his words, the chamber's AI announced an incoming priority transmission. The holographic display shifted to show the face of Admiral Rex, commander of the invasion fleet, his reptilian features tense with barely controlled aggression. "Council representatives," he began without preamble, "my sensor teams have detected significant energy buildup in the human defensive grid. My tactical officers are recommending immediate preemptive action before the humans can launch whatever they're preparing." Kate felt her heart skip a beat. This was the moment they had all been dreading. The point where fear and misunderstanding could overcome careful planning and drag them all into a war nobody wanted. "Admiral Rex," she said, stepping forward to address the fleet commander directly, "the energy buildup you're detecting is a safety protocol. When the collective mind protocol operates at high intensity for extended periods, it generates quantum resonance patterns that could potentially damage the network if not properly managed. What you're seeing is our technicians cycling the system to prevent overload, or preparing for a massive coordinated strike," Admiral Rex countered. "I have 20 species counting on me to protect their fleets. I cannot ignore a potential threat based on the word of the very beings who have already demonstrated their capacity for deception." The chamber fell silent as the galaxy balanced on the edge of war. Kate could see the decision crystallizing in the eyes of the council members, the fear winning over the promise of unprecedented cooperation. In moments, Admiral Rex would order the invasion fleet to attack, and 60,000 hidden weapon platforms would respond in kind, unless humanity showed them one final truth about the first rule. The moment Dr. Park activated the Revelation Protocol, every display in the council chamber went blank. For 3 heartbeats that seemed to last forever, the crystalline walls reflected only the bioluminescent veins that pulsed through their structure like a cosmic heartbeat. Then gradually new images began to form, not on the screens, but directly in the minds of every being present. Kate felt the familiar sensation of the collective mind protocol engaging, but this time, it was different. Instead of linking only with other humans, she could feel her consciousness touching the edges of alien minds, the complex geometric thoughts of the Void Lords, the flowing crystal patterns of the collective, even the structured military precision of Admiral Rex's thinking. Through the shared connection, every being in the chamber and aboard the invasion fleet experienced the same revelation. The complete history of humanity's first contact with galactic civilization, told not through words or images, but through direct transfer of memory and emotion. They felt the terror of early radio astronomers who had detected signals indicating that Earth was being discussed as a potential resource claim by competing alien civilizations. They experienced the desperate determination of world leaders who had made the decision to prepare for eventual contact through strength rather than submission. They shared the patient decades of preparation, the careful balance between advancing human technology while appearing primitive to outside observers. But most importantly, they felt the moment 60 years ago when humanity had first detected the vast communication network that connected all of galactic civilization, and the conversation that had changed everything. Through the shared consciousness, the council members experienced that pivotal discovery as if they were there. Human scientists intercepting a routine transmission between council species about the minor world in the Sol system and whether it was worth monitoring for potential threats. The casual dismissal of humanity as too primitive to be of concern for at least another 1,000 years had been followed by detailed discussions of how to best exploit Earth's resources when the time came. The revelation that galactic civilization viewed them as nothing more than future resources to be harvested had transformed humanity's entire approach to the stars. They had realized that the first rule, never let the enemy see you, coming had to be applied on a generational Scale. Kate felt the shock rippling through the alien minds, connected to the network as they understood the truth. Humanity had been preparing for this specific confrontation for 6 decades, based on intelligence gathered from the Council's own communications. Every diplomatic overture, every cultural exchange, every trade mission had been part of an elaborate intelligence operation designed to gather the information necessary to level the playing field. But there was more. Through the protocol, the assembled beings experienced humanity's deepest fears and greatest hopes. They felt the terror of a species that had grown up knowing they were being watched by predators, and the determination to survive that had driven every breakthrough and innovation. They experienced the weight of knowing that every advancement had to be hidden, every capability concealed, every strength disguised as weakness. Admiral Rex's mental voice cut through the shared experience, carrying confusion and growing understanding. The energy signatures we've been detecting, they're not weapons charging. They're communications arrays, Kate confirmed through the network, her thoughts clear and precise. Every asteroid, every weapon platform, every defensive installation in our solar system is also a node in the most sophisticated intelligence-gathering network ever constructed. For 4 months, while you've been blockading us, we've been monitoring every communication, every tactical discussion, every strategic decision made by the invasion fleet. The implications hit the assembled minds like a tsunami. Humanity hadn't just prepared defenses against galactic civilization. They had created a comprehensive intelligence network that could monitor Council activities throughout local space. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had been quietly observing their observers for decades. High Commander, Vex's consciousness rippled with what could only be described as professional appreciation. The first rule taken to its logical extreme. You haven't just hidden your capabilities, you've hidden your understanding of ours. But why reveal this now? The Crystal Collective asked through the network. This intelligence advantage could have been maintained for decades more. Dr. Park's response carried the weight of careful calculation and desperate hope. Because the galaxy is about to face a threat that makes our current standoff irrelevant. 5 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. Something is coming, something that makes the invasion fleet look like a patrol group. The shared consciousness suddenly filled with new data. Long-range sensor readings showing massive energy signatures approaching from intergalactic space, communication intercepts in languages that matched no known species, and gravitational anomalies suggesting the movement of objects larger than moons. Kate felt the moment when understanding crystallized across every connected mind. Humanity had revealed their capabilities not because they wanted to win a confrontation with galactic civilization, but because they needed allies for something far worse approaching from beyond the stars. This is why we've spent 60 years preparing, she continued through the network. Not just to defend ourselves from the galaxy's existing powers, but to be ready when the galaxy itself needed defending. The collective mind protocol, the defensive grid, the intelligence network, all of it was designed with this moment in mind. The largest Void Lord's thoughts carried ancient wisdom and new respect. You knew this was coming. How? David's consciousness joined the conversation, bringing with it the tactical clarity of a military mind trained for impossible scenarios. Because we learned from your own histories, every species represented here has legends of ancient threats from beyond the galaxy. The Devourers, the Endless Dark, the things that existed before matter learned to organize itself into stars. We realized that these weren't just myths, they were memories. Through the protocol, the assembled beings shared humanity's analysis of galactic history, recurring patterns of civilizations rising and falling, periodic extinction events that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena, and evidence that the galaxy had been invaded from outside multiple times throughout its history. The cycle is repeating, Dr. Park explained, her scientific precision lending weight to the terrifying conclusion. Based on our analysis of historical patterns and current sensor data, we estimate 20 months before the first scouts arrive, possibly less. Whatever's coming has already begun preliminary operations on the galactic rim. The shared consciousness fell silent as every being present processed the magnitude of what they were facing. The standoff between humanity and the Council had suddenly become irrelevant compared to a threat that could destroy galactic civilization entirely. Admiral, Rex's thoughts carried the weight of command decisions that would affect billions of lives. If this intelligence is accurate, then every resource we're currently wasting on this blockade should be redirected to preparation for external invasion. Which brings us back to our original proposal, Kate said through the network, but with far greater urgency. The galaxy needs the collective mind protocol operational on a massive scale before the real enemy arrives. We need every species working together, sharing information and coordinating defenses in real time. The largest void, Lord's ancient consciousness, carried the weight of civilizations that had survived by understanding when circumstances demanded impossible choices. You're proposing to unite the galaxy against an external threat using technology that could enslave us all. We're proposing to give the galaxy the tools it needs to survive, Kate corrected. The choice of how to use those tools will belong to everyone connected to the network. Through the collective mind protocol, every being present could feel the truth of her words. The network didn't create hierarchy or control. It created understanding. Fear began to transform into something else as alien. Minds touched human determination and found it matched by their own species' drive to survive. The Crystal Collective's consciousness rippled with new possibilities. A true galactic confederation, not conquest or submission, but genuine cooperation born from shared necessity. The vote when it came was unanimous. The first rule had taught humanity never to let the enemy see them coming. But sometimes the most important enemy was the one approaching from beyond the horizon, and the only way to face it was to make sure that when it arrived, it would find not scattered prey but a galaxy united and ready for war.